Good evening. I'm David Swotek, and our sports ticker is brought to you by the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. Nebraska men's basketball has had a fantastic start to their season, winning the last 6 games in a row, most recently against number 22 UCLA 66-58. The next matchup for the Huskers is at Carver Hawkeye Center to face Iowa. Head coach Fred Hoiberg discusses how the former Hawkeye Aaron Eulis will play a part in this upcoming game.
Yeah, I mean, you talk to him about, just maybe some different calls that are out there, some different tendencies, whether it's offense or defense. And, it's good we were able to keep him low minutes the other night, but we're going to need him the rest of the conference schedule.
We will hear more from head coach Fred Hoiberg later in the show. A couple of Huskers have been put on the awards list this week, starting with volleyball. Libero Lexi Rodriguez was named a finalist for the Class of 2025 Honda Sport Award for volleyball. The other finalists include Olivia Babcock from Pittsburgh, Brooklyn Deely from Kentucky, and Sarah Franklin from Wisconsin. The winner of this award will move on to be a finalist in the Collegiate Women Athlete of the Year and the 2025 Honda Cup. Heading over to women's tennis, Anna Zambrick was put on the Big Ten preseason watch list for the upcoming season. The senior from Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, has a singles record of 33-44, with 14 of those wins coming from last spring. In doubles action, Zambrick has a record of 33-21, with her teammate Anfisa Danichenko reaching a top spot of number 25 last season. Zambrick and the Huskers will showcase their skills at UC Riverside to begin the season on January 16th. Timeout. If you or someone you know is struggling or in crisis, the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is there. Call, text, or chat 988. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained professionals ready to listen and provide support. Coming up next is the first hour of Sports Nightly, right here on the Huskers Radio Network.
Coming to you live from Memorial Stadium, it's Sports Nightly. All the Huskers, all the time. Sports Nightly is presented to you by the NDOT Highway Safety Office, who remind you to buckle up and put the phone down.
Here comes UCLA the other way. Sebastian Mack, jump stop in the paint, taken away from him by Hoiberg. Hoiberg stripped him. Hoiberg across the timeline. Hoiberg waits for his teammates. On the pass to Butenjel, puts it up, got it! Bang! Hooray! Fair Hoiberg driving, left lane line stopping, goes weak side, bounce pass. Morgan's got it, strong with the ball, puts it up and in, and one. Nebraska with a 9-point lead, their biggest of the game. What a strong move by Morgan.
Rebound Campbell, Penn State looks to retake the lead. Britt Prince knocked it away at half court. Bojan got the loose ball. Bojan volleyball bats it to Prince. Rimdahl for 3, deep left wing. You betcha! Happy assist for Britt Prince. Out Bernie Rimdahl with a Central Valley A3. Forces a Penn State timeout.
Now, here are your hosts, Greg Sharpe and Jessica Coody on the Huskers Radio Network.
I thought the crowd was absolutely phenomenal. Certainly the best crowd I think we've had without students in the building, and we needed them. But it was everything we thought this game would be, and you got to win ugly. And we knew it was going to be a rock fight, and we found a way, and that's what good teams do.
Slow start for the Huskers. Wooster's got it. Comes left against Perry, drives the ball, puts it up and down. We've got a 7-5 ball game, unscathed at the rim. Went Wooster. Now on the sideline, it comes to Hoiberg, to Asijan, to Gary, the 3-ball on the way. Got it! Nebraska's got the lead, 8-7. First complete of the game for the Big Red at 12:48 in the first half.
Defense has to be our constant, and I thought we went out there for 40 minutes, and we were on point defensively. We knew we had to, because we knew it was going to be hard to put it in the basket tonight.
Here comes UCLA the other way. Sebastian Mack, jump stop in the paint. It's taken away from him by Hoiberg. Hoiberg stripped him. Hoiberg across the timeline. Hoiberg waits for his teammates. On the pass to Butenjel, puts it up, got it! Bang! Hooray! Fair comes left off the screen by Butenjel. Pivots, skip pass left side, little lofty pass, and Wooster fires. Got it! 1,000 points for Wooster, and he ties this puppy up. Back cutting is Gary, not available. Used up the dribble, gives it off to Asijan, 5 on the clock. Asijan with the take, the jump stop, into Morgan, puts it up and in, puts it up and an one, and an one. 34-32 Nebraska, 14.5 to go here in Lincoln, Nebraska. And in the passing lane is Morgan again. Morgan saving the day, puts it up, got it! Reverse layup with the left hand. Andrew Morgan with the last 5 points. Nebraska 36-32.
It was a rock fight today. just being able to win when it's ugly is super important, and if we play tough like that, we're going to be able to do that, and no matter if our offense is clicking or not, we can still win games if we're tough, and that was just a perfect example tonight.
Ulis has got the ball after missing the last 4 games, drives it left side, throws it out now to Hoiberg, who shoots the 3. Bang! Bang! All right! Sammy, my boy! Huge 3, and Nebraska's up by 7, 45-38, 11 minutes into the second half, 9 to go. Hoiberg driving, left lane, line stopping, goes weak side, bounce pass. Morgan's got it, strong with the ball, puts it up, and in, and in, and in, and in, and one. Nebraska with a 9-point lead, their biggest in the game. What a strong move by Morgan.
We're going to play a lot of close games in this league, and every possession matters. We need tough guys out there, and that's what those guys did. They made tough plays. And you need that, especially off your bench.
Ulis drives the ball on Perry. Pull up Jay. Got it! Got it! Bang! 50-48, 50-38. Nebraska by a dozen. Biggest lead of the afternoon is a Sejan left side to Hoiberg. 10 on the shot clock. Deep left corner 3. Gary. Got it! Got it! Got it! Got it! By none other than Gary, and he's got 3 of those puppies this afternoon. 53-40. Across the timeline. Andrews, hesitation move, drives the ball. Shot blocked by Gary. Into the hands of Hoiberg. Hoiberg dribbling it around. He's just going to dribble it around the front court, flips it off to Williams. 10 seconds left to go. Williams fouled. With 10.4 to go, it's all over but the shout. 10 seconds to go. Little pressure being applied. Pick off by Gary. Layup foul. Gary to the free throw line. Gary came out of nowhere to steal that ball. 8.5 to go. Second free throw up. Money, 66-58. It's over. Long 3, up no good. Rebound belongs to Wooster. That's going to be the game. Nebraska wins it. What an afternoon of Husker basketball on Alumni Weekend. Nebraska knocks off 15th ranked UCLA, posts its 20th straight home floor victory, 66-58.
Well, what a fun Saturday afternoon at PBA. Nebraska beats 15th ranked UCLA and gets their second conference victory of the year. And it was a day that neither team shot it very well. And you kept hearing during the montage, great work again by Josh Hookerman there, Jess, that it was a rock fight. I mean, Bryce goes 2 of 12. Connor doesn't make a shot, and yet Nebraska finds a way to win. And that's really encouraging. Yeah, for sure. And again, we've heard Coach Hoiberg say that sometimes his team's going to have to win differently. They're not always pretty on the offensive end, but they have found a way to lock in defensively. They've got guys that are really good on the defensive end, take a lot of pride on that. And so you and I talked about that it very well could be a slugfest and maybe take the under. But UCLA came in, touted as one of the best defenses, and the Huskers, boy, they played their game and played it better. And so really impressive way just to find a way to win and knock off 15th ranked team in the country. Another huge win inside Pinnacle Bank Arena, and they're going to have to protect the home court. This is just going to be a gauntlet night in and night out in the Big Ten. No question. We said 60, first one to 60 might win the game, and that's exactly what ended up happening for Nebraska. And you look at Nebraska's first 2 home conference games, wins over Indiana and UCLA. That's pretty heady stuff to get those 2 in the win column. Now it's back-to-back roadies. They're at Iowa tomorrow night. We're going to hear the coach talking about that matchup here just a little bit. Then at Purdue on Sunday. So it is a tough stretch for the Big Red coming up. But, I thought Sam Hoiberg was huge. Hustle plays all over the court. Yeah. Deflecting balls back into play. Ended up with 7 points. Might have been his best game of the year. I mean, it's hard because Sam gives you great effort every night. Yeah, it's one of those where he always seems to make an absolute just game-changing play in those big games. I mean, you go back to Purdue and then the Wisconsin game, just those big wins, you could point to a really kind of momentum-swinging play that Sam Hoiberg makes, and he's continued to do it. He just went in the big moments, kind of delivers, whether it be on the defensive end or knocking down a big 3. But you're right, he made several of those. He had to be on the floor a lot because they were playing their best basketball when he was on the floor, and he just seemed to provide just such a spark. And so there were some really big moments that he provided, and he does it on both ends. So I agree, though. I think that was probably just really for the amount of minutes that he played and the total amount of minutes. I think that was probably, his best game so far. Really good effort by him. Berkay only went 1 for 8. So you got Berkay 1 for 8, Bryce 2 for 12, Connor 0 for 6, and you win. I mean, that is just so encouraging because that's not going to happen many nights when all three of those guys do not put the ball in the basket a little bit more than that. And they beat a good UCLA team that's still ranked today, even after the loss to the Huskers on Saturday. They're still in the top 25. Nebraska getting votes, getting close to being in there, but even Coach Hoiberg today's media conference said, I don't care. I don't care if we're ranked or not. We just need to go play good basketball night in and night out. And again, back-to-back roadies coming up at Iowa tomorrow night, which will knock us off the air. Husker women bounced back after a tough road trip to the West Coast with a victory over Penn State yesterday. And they had to dig deep, Jess. It was 59 all. And then Nebraska ended up the game on a 13-2 run to win it going away. And they just needed a win. They just needed to put one in the win column, and they got that done yesterday.
Yeah, they made things a little nerve-wracking there, but that's what Amy Williams has been asking for from this team. I mean, they show some stretches where they look really, really good, and then they have some stretches where they don't keep the pedal to the metal. And so she'll continue, I guarantee you, continue to ask for a complete game performance. We heard Coatney talking about that. Leading into that game, that this is just a team that still has not put 4 quarters together, which she'll continue to ask for them to do, and they're going to need to do against some of these teams coming up. If they want to win some of these tough games in the Big Ten, they're going to have to play 4 quarters. And I just don't think this team is still yet to have played 4 full quarters, a full game, consistent game of on both ends of the floor. And they still didn't shoot it well, particularly well at times yesterday either, which they've shown that they can be a really good shooting team. They just haven't shot it particularly well the last few games. But, hey, find a way to win. And Penn State, again, that was another thing that Coatney told us. This is not a Penn State team we've come to know the last few years where it's you can guarantee a win. They've made some moves in the portal, and they've got some pieces that are hard to defend. They're going to beat some teams. They gave Iowa all they wanted the game before, I believe, that they played Nebraska. And so they're going to probably be a team that's going to give some teams some fits in the Big Ten. So it wasn't like that was just, this is a guaranteed win for Nebraska. So they found a way to get it done. And yeah, as, again, another thing that Coatney had said, he didn't want to call it a must-win, but it was as close to a must-win as you could get here in early January. And so they got back in the win column, stopped that 3-game skid, and going back to protecting the home court, both teams are going to have to do that here this season.
And they've got Michigan State coming to PBA on Wednesday night. I thought Britt Prince was huge. A couple of deflected balls that she stole away from Penn State, made some key jump shots in the game as well. Just starting to show you how special a player she already is, and just a true freshman. Certainly glad she's wearing the scarlet and cream. She's going to be a great player.
Yeah, and her pace, right? I mean, it's a different level when she gets the ball and takes it. It's just her speed, the way that she's able to really push it, I think is really special. And we saw her out of the gate be aggressive, and then maybe sometimes being too unselfish. I think she's still figuring that out, but you're right. You can really see how special she can be. And that was one thing that they were talking about on the TV broadcast. When teams are trying to guard the pick and roll with Alexis Markowski and Britt Prince, it's almost dang near impossible to guard, because you've got to take your pick on who you're going to hedge and who you're going to really try to defend off that pick and roll. And if you go with Alexis, then Britt can hit that jumper, that free throw line jumper, that elbow jumper. She's almost automatic a lot of times on that. And if you choose to go with Britt, then boy, she's going to dump it off and get Alexis an easy bucket. So when those two have that pick and roll going, it is lethal for other teams to try to defend. But I think we're starting to see her really come into her own, and she's being aggressive, not just on the offensive end, but on the defensive end, getting rebounding. And that was one thing that Amy Williams pointed to when you lose Natalie Potts. Well, one of the areas that you lose with Natalie was that rebounding. And so Britt is really taking it upon herself to be more aggressive on the boards. And so it was against USC, the last game she had racked up several rebounds, and so you're seeing her be more aggressive at going to get the rebound. And then once she gets it, boy, she can push it and go, and it just really changes the dynamics of what this team could do when they want to get out and push things against some of these teams. So, yeah, I think she's we're going to continue, I think, to see her really come into her own, and as she figures out when to take her shot, when to dump it, because she's as gifted as a passer as we've seen, here in recent years. And Jazz Shelley was a really good passer, but I think Britt's on a whole nother level. So if she continues to figure out when to take her shot, when to give it up, look out. It is going to be something really special to watch.
got their league record evened up at 2 apiece with the victory yesterday over Penn State. Football-wise, a lot of movement in the portal. Some Huskers back in the portal. Nebraska getting some success. Picked up a couple of commitments out of the portal. The Sun Belt Defensive Player of the Year is not going to be a Cornhusker, a linebacker from Georgia Southern. Looks like he's going to be a tremendous football player. Glad to have him jumping on board. And multiple media outlets reporting in Nebraska confirming that Ed Foley has been relieved of his duties as special teams coordinator. Jess, you saw this coming after the game on the Pinstripe Bowl. Matt Rule did say we needed to have a complete overhaul in special teams, and you felt like, yeah, that meant probably Coach Foley would be on his way out. That had to be tough for Coach Rule. Those two are really tight, but this is a performance-based business. You got to get it done, and Nebraska's not been good in the last couple of years on the special teams, and so Nebraska headed a different direction. Yeah, and Coach Rule and Coach Foley have been together for so long and have been at stops together along the way. And Coach Foley's a big part of the recruiting. You know, I mean, he just develops those relationships. He really came in and tackled Nebraska. And so some of that Nebraska talent that have come here, Coach Foley had, you know, his fingerprints all over, trying, you know, locking up those guys and wanting them to get to come here. But, I mean, you said it, and there were too many times where special teams plays costed games, you know, and over the last couple of seasons, or certainly didn't help, or momentum swings just, and then you saw it again in the final game of the season. And when Coach Rule said it, you knew that something was coming. Of course, not official yet. We don't know who he's looking to target and all that. We'll wait official word there, but certainly needed something to change there. And so it'll be fascinating to see. Now you got potentially three new coordinators going into this year. So Searles brought that up last week when he was here. It feels so different because it's almost, even though you've got a lot of the same players back and Coach Rule's back for his third season, it almost feels like a completely new season with three new coordinators that you're looking to see how this continues to change and evolve and you know, move in a positive direction for this program. Nebraska had the most kicks blocked in college football this past year. So going to miss Ed. Good guy, but yeah, it's, again, a performance-based business. You got to perform or got to move on. All right, we're going to move on. We're going to do some picks. We've got no show tomorrow, only a 30-minute show on Wednesday because of the Husker women's game tipping off at 7. So we're going to do our pick segment coming up here in the next segment and pick those national semifinal games. And then in hour 2, we're going to talk to our old friend Lane Grindle, who used to host this show for a number of years, filled in for me on the Iowa broadcast and the Pinstripe Bowl. We'll talk to Lane about Huskers. We'll talk about Major League Baseball, which is the world he lives in now with the Milwaukee Brewers. We'll have some fun with Lane coming up in hour number 2. But when we come back, we're going to make some picks. Stay with us.
There's only one truck you should be looking at, the Ford F-150. The 2024 Ford F-150 is a Kelly Blue Book Best Buy. Has best-in-class towing and best-in-class payload. Available Pro Power on board lets you power the tools you need and get work done almost anywhere. With over-the-air updates, F-150 only gets better with time. F-150 is the only truck worth looking at.
Want to boost Nebraska's economy and help the planet? It's as easy as filling up your tank. Switch to soy-based biodiesel to cut greenhouse gases by up to 74% and support biodiesel growth.
I'm Greg Anderson, a farmer near Newman Grove, Nebraska, and biodiesel has transformed our farm. It cuts emissions, raises the cetane number, and improves fuel lubricity.
So ask for biodiesel where you fill up. It benefits our air, economy, and Nebraska soybean farmers. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Hey Huskers, it's a new day in Nebraska. Manzer Equipment, Mertz Farm Equipment, and West Point Implement of Columbus have teamed up as True Ag and Turf. Coach Rule is bringing innovation and high-performance standards to Husker football, and True Ag is doing the same to your farm with game-changing Fendt equipment. As Big Red establishes power on the field, True Ag and Turf does the same in the field by welcoming Fendt to Nebraska.
I would have never had the chance to see my daughter become a doctor.
Because my mom wore her seatbelt that day, I get to hug her when I go home.
And then it clicked. Because I wore my seatbelt, I learned that one moment in time can change a person's life forever.
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
The day we were hit was the second to last day of our high school careers.
We were about to graduate as best friends together.
And then it clicked. Because we wore our seatbelt that day, we still get to experience life together.
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Preparation is the key to success on game day. And like your favorite Huskers on the field, you need to be ready right from the opening kickoff. Cenex has your pre-game routine covered. We've got your salty snacks, your sweet treats, ice-cold beverages to wash them down, and fresh tanks of propane to fire up the grill. Fuel your fandom at your local Cenex station. Husker Pride, powered locally.
From family road trips in a spacious SUV to heavy-duty hauling in a powerful truck, Woodhouse has the vehicle to fit your lifestyle. Purchasing a vehicle has never been easier thanks to our streamlined buying process. Browse a huge selection of new or pre-owned vehicles from top brands. View transparent pricing so you can find the vehicle that fits in your budget. And complete your purchase online. Shop when you want, where you want. It's the Woodhouse difference. Get started today at woodhouse.com.
On game day, every play counts. Now imagine having the same level of control in your field. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Real-time, play-by-play control means you're always ahead of the game. Score big with simplified irrigation technology from Valley, improving your life both on and off the field. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
Attention, Husker Nation. Are you ready to power up your game? Sap Brothers high-quality off-road red diesel is the fuel that powers your equipment. As official sponsors of the Huskers, we're here with a winning offer with the Sap Brothers Go Big Red Fuel Giveaway. Contract your upcoming fuel needs by February 1st and enter to win 1,000 free gallons of our off-road red diesel to keep your engine roaring and equipment running strong. Sap Brothers fuels Husker Nation. Visit sapbros.net/fuel giveaway for more info.
Time. So let's review last week, and let's go back. We went into last week with the students having a 3-game advantage over Jess, 4 over me, 6 over Jeremiah, and 11 over Josh. We all have room to pick up. Those guys have been good. I mean, we've rotated through all of them, right? Josh, every one of them has picked 2 or 3 times.
Well, and that's what I think that early on in the season, there wasn't necessarily like a set rotation, but once we got to a certain point, I started having it be between the 4 that are picking once a week and making sure that it was a consistent rotation. So, yeah, it's been very consistent. All of them have had their chances, and they've all had at least one week where they've done very well. So.
Duke had a couple. I think Duke had the one bad week that allowed for me to kind of get back in it a little bit. But
he's picking this week, so.
Well, they've rotated around. They've pretty much led almost wire to wire.
Yeah,
they've been solid. So kudos to them. But I'm coming after them this week.
All right.
It's frustrating, really frustrating. So let's review. We had the USC A&M game, and Jess, congrats. You were the only one to go with the Trojans, and they pulled out a nice win. They begin their year with a victory over an SEC team in Las Vegas, and they end their year with a victory over an SEC team in Las Vegas. Congrats.
Thanks. I've stood by this point that Lincoln Riley is always going to have something offensively up his sleeve and having that long to prepare. And then I just didn't love some of the ways that A&M finished the season. Sometimes they looked really good, sometimes they didn't. And so I just, rolled the dice on that one and went upstream, and it paid off for me.
Sure did. Missouri, Iowa. Knew this would be a good game. Hawkeyes led the whole way, but can't hang on. Jess, you and I and the students got it right. Josh, you and Jeremiah went with Iowa, and boy, for about 35 minutes of that game, you had it. And you had it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. For the first part of that game at halftime and shortly thereafter, I was like, okay, we've got this in the bag. That's a point that we're going to pick up, but didn't happen.
And then an absolute explosion offensively for Iowa. Who would have saw that coming?
Kickoff return for a touchdown. I mean, that's kind of how they get their points up there. But good game, good fun game. Missouri, Hank was able to pull it out at the end and had a feeling that would be a really competitive football game. All right, we all missed the Alabama-Michigan game. The Tide, 12.5-point favorites. They face-planted in this one. Good for Michigan, good for the Big Ten. We go 0 for 5. And, man, I was surprised that Bama just did not seem to even want to play. Michigan, what a way to end the year. You beat Ohio State and Alabama. Pretty good way to finish.
Yeah, they've got some momentum going into the season with the way that they finished. But I'm not mad about losing a point on that because all the uproar that Bama should have been in the playoff and then they go and just get dominated, by Michigan. I'm not sad about losing that point. I'm glad that Michigan finished out that way and, handed Alabama another loss after all the crying. I really thought maybe Bama would show up and try to say, look, you left us out. This is a problem. Maybe because, I think if Bama goes in and dominates Michigan, maybe that lingers in the mind of the committee moving forward. But hey, they didn't do themselves any favor in the future for any team like that might be on that bubble like that thinking, oh, well, but look what happened to Bama when they, they just got dominated by Michigan.
It's more of a Florida State situation from last year where they went into it and instead of proving it one way, they proved it the other that they didn't belong. So.
Yep.
And Milroe played. I mean, they had their starting quarterback. It wasn't like that they had a bunch of opt-outs. They had some, but so did Michigan in that game. So it was a legit victory for the Wolverines. So good for the Big Ten. The Big Ten's done really well head-to-head against the SEC. All right, to the Sun Bowl, Louisville against Washington. This came down to a 2-point try at the end of the game. The Cardinals win. Jeremiah and the students get it right. The three of us went with the Huskies. And, guys, we were close. Another close one. We had a 2-point play away from winning that thing.
What a game. I wanted Washington to just kick the extra point, not go for 2. They had enough time scoring. They had a hard enough time scoring to even get into the end zone. Just kick the extra point and then see where it goes in overtime. But, boy, that was wild at the end. It took forever to finish, like, the last minute and a half of that game.
Sure did. All right, South Carolina, Illinois. We go over as a group on this one. We all went with the Gamecocks, who came in as a red-hot football team, but Brett Bielema and Illinois gets it done. They win 10 games, Josh, this year. Brett Bielema's got a 10-win team in Champaign.
Yeah, he's pretty consistent. I think that he probably got about as much out of that team as he could, too. That was an impressive coaching job is how I'll put that, given what he has. I mean, there's some talented players on there, but to get 10 wins is pretty impressive.
Again, and Greg, adding to that conversation about Big Ten versus SEC, as much as I am a big fan of Shane Beamer and appreciate the job that he's done and really enjoyed working with him at Oklahoma, I'm not mad again that another Big Ten team beat an SEC team because silence the Paul Feinbaums of the world about how good the SEC is. And here's a good matchup that South Carolina went in there to win that game, and Illinois just gives them a loss. And so another notch in the belt for the Big Ten in this whole postseason when we went into it. Again, just with the SEC people of the world thinking that they were the superior conference.
Those big spreads, Bama by 12.5, South Carolina by 9.5, and they both lose. And they, again, were not fluky losses. Those were earned by both the Wolverines and the Illini. Okay, let's get to the playoff games. Boise and Penn State. Penn State 11-point favorites. We were 5-0 in this one. We all went with the Nittany Lions. This one kind of went the way I thought it would. Penn State was just superior in the trenches. Boise put up a bit of a fight, which I thought they would. They're a scrappy team, but Penn State's just flat better.
Yeah, and more physical, right? I mean, that's where you see probably the difference in just the physicality and the talent level when you have this kind of matchup. And I know a lot of the argument, too, was that should Boise have received a bye? That's what Searles was talking about last week when we had him on, that they probably shouldn't have deserved a bye. But here Penn State is. They're in the national semifinals and lost in the conference title game. But, hey, they got the route that allowed for them to get there, and they're making the most of it and, taking advantage of their opportunities.
Yeah, people say easy route, but that's to me that puts more pressure on you. You're supposed to beat SMU. You're supposed to beat Boise. You can't stub your toe. They didn't. They obviously have a big one coming up here in a couple of days that we will pick here in just a moment. All right, to the Rose Bowl, Ohio State, Oregon. We were divided on this one. Josh, you and Jessica and I all had the Buckeyes. Jeremiah and the students go Oregon, so we do pick up a point here. Really impressive. Ohio State was great again this week.
My goodness. Impressive is an understatement, I think. They were they had that one under control from the get-go, and it was just a question of how much they were going to win by, if they were going to let off the gas at all. And it seemed like at the end of the first half and start of the second half, maybe Oregon was going to try to claw their way back into it, but they didn't really have a chance.
Boy, Greg, that Ohio State team, they have rallied around the us against the world kind of mentality, set it against Tennessee, and something kind of clicked in them, and this is the team that everybody thought that they could be, and boy, they have just found a whole nother gear, and Oregon had no answer for them on either side of the football.
Which is too bad. Oregon ends a year like that after the undefeated regular season, winning the Big Ten championship game. It was a magical season for them. Seems a little unfair. And this goes back to that seeding question. Should Oregon really have had to match up in the quarterfinals with Ohio State? Probably not. They got to get that kind of figured out. And I think they will as they move through this.
Do you think the Ryan Day haters are silenced now, or do you think it takes one more win? Or two more, even?
I think they're fairly silenced now. I mean, those are two impressive wins over Tennessee and Oregon. But, yeah, you're right. They'll probably come back out of the woodwork if they don't beat Texas on Friday.
Yep.
Texas. Speaking of Texas and Arizona State, wow, what a football game this was. And I was scoffing at the line. I thought it was ridiculous. It was Texas by 13. And, boy, for maybe a missed targeting call, Arizona State could be playing this week. Josh, you went in on that limb and took the Sun Devils and darn near got it right.
Yeah, well, I wasn't necessarily like 100% confident that they were going to win, but I knew that they would be able to keep it close. Just, I felt like they were not necessarily a team of destiny, but they were just a solid football team, and Texas wasn't invincible. So they were able to keep it close. Cam Scatteraboo proved that he's an amazing player. He did it all for the Sun Devils, but yeah, you don't necessarily want it to come down to a call like that, targeting or not targeting, called or not called, but really, though, it did. They could have won it if that had been called.
I texted you and Searles in our group chat. I was like, oh, boy, this is about to be a rout. And then, so kudos to Arizona State for figuring some things out and making it a game, because those first 5 minutes, it looked like Texas was actually going to cover that spread.
And they needed to convert a 4th and 13 to stay alive in the overtime.
Yep.
So they made a play when they needed to make a play, but they were darn lucky to get out of that game with a victory over ASU. ASU is a program on the rise. Keep an eye on that thing moving into 2025. All right, Notre Dame, Georgia. The Irish put it to them. Put it to the Dogs, the backup quarterback. We all went Irish. I can't believe that.
I can't believe it.
Game was a 2-point spread. All 5 of us went Notre Dame, so we all got it right in that game. But, man, they were dominant in that one. And, again, back to Jess, you've mentioned it a couple times. That'll kind of slap at the SEC. Kind of got picked apart again by a school from the north.
Yeah, and Greg, you brought it up, what was it, on Friday, about ESPN going back and showing the kid that ended up, that had the penalty on back early in the game. And I don't know if they're trying to make that an excuse or not, but by the end of that game, Notre Dame, Georgia had several opportunities. They just got flat out outplayed and they on several times did not convert other plays or didn't, go back to the end of the first half. I was actually driving up here and missed it. I was like, how did they go up that much at halftime? So they throw the pick six or whatever. They just made too many mistakes. And so it wasn't like that one penalty caused Georgia to lose that game. But again, kudos to Notre Dame. I didn't know how they were going to fare in this playoff, because I just really wasn't sure if they had played this kind of competition, but they ever been as legit as going into this thing, and they're proving it that they deserve to be on this stage and in this conversation.
And one other game that was not a playoff game, Minnesota and Vaught Tech. We all 5 went with the Gophers. They win. They have won 6 consecutive bowl games under P.J. Fleck. So yay team, we all get that right.
So what's the Big Ten bowl record now?
It's pretty good. I'd have to go back and add it up because all the playoff games now keep getting added in there, but it's pretty good. It's above 500.
Yeah, well above 500.
Washington lost. Iowa
lost.
Iowa lost, but the rest.
Rutgers got beat.
Oh yeah.
And Washington got beat. So there's some losses in there, but with the playoff wins, you got Ohio State 2-0 and Penn State 2-0. There's 4-0 right there with those two teams doing that. Well, Jess, you're the weekly winner. 7-3 in those 10 games. The students at 6-4. I went 6-4. Big Dog 5-5, and Josh 4-6. So you are 2 games back with 3 to go, Jess, of the students.
Let's go, and I'm going all in. I did the math last week. I just wanted to make sure that there was no way Searles could catch me. It was midway through the picks, so and I was like, if I checked his picks to make sure if his all went right and mine all went right or wrong, and I know that there's no way he can catch me. That's the only person I care about catching me, and so I'm going all in on trying to go for those students this week.
All right. Well, we have only two to pick. The Thursday game, Penn State, Notre Dame. The students, I'll lay this out there for you, are going with the Irish in this game. It's a close line. Notre Dame favored by about 1.5. I'm going to go opposite the students here. I think Penn State's got more weapons on offense. I think they got the better quarterback in this game, and I think they will avoid mistakes. I think they can win this game in the trenches. Give me Penn State in a slight upset to beat the Irish. I'm with you, and I would have picked Penn State regardless. I mean, obviously I'm going for it, but that's who I would have wanted to pick either way. So I think they've taken care of business up to this point. They don't always just flat out dominate or win pretty, but they do their jobs, and I think they match up well with Notre Dame. So I've got Penn State as well. Notre Dame is the pick of Jeremiah Searles. I'm a little surprised with that, but he goes Irish. Josh, how about you?
I'm going to go with Notre Dame too. I think that this is teams that are pretty similar to each other that are going to try to win with defense, so it could be a lower scoring game. But I just have been a little bit more impressed with what Notre Dame has shown so far in the playoffs. Obviously, there's plenty to be impressed about with Penn State too, but I'm going to lean toward the Irish on this one.
And Josh continues to be a Big Ten hater.
That's true.
Sure does. Yeah, puts him in the loss column. So 3 with the Irish, 2 with the Penn State Nittany Lions. And the last game of the week is in the Cotton Bowl, so it's in the state of Texas, a bit of a home field advantage for the Longhorns as the Buckeyes come visiting. The students are saying, I don't care. They're going to Ohio State. Jess? I'll go Texas then. I told you I'm going after them. So Texas didn't play their best ball game against Arizona State. Maybe they're going to figure some things out and knock off Ohio State. Maybe Ohio State laid out their best game last week. That's what I'm hoping for, so I can get a point in this one. Jeremiah's opposite you. He's got the Buckeyes winning this game.
Yeah, I have to go Ohio State here until they come down off of what this run has been. I think I said this last week too, that coming into the season, Ohio State was probably the most talented team in the country, and they just never were able to put it together into one complete performance, but they've done that the last couple of weeks, so I'm going to say that they continue to do that this week.
They've really gotten those wide receivers, particularly Smith, involved in some of these games. He's almost unguardable right now at this level. He probably could go pro right now and be one of the top 3 or 4 picks in the draft. I think he's just good. He's a monster, and I think they win. So I've got the Buckeyes as well. So Jeff's swimming upstream in that one. That's it, guys. Just the 2 games.
Look at me. I'm going hook 'em.
You are.
Who would have thought?
Well, some say you're a closet Longhorn fan. I don't know.
That's what they say.
Some say, hey, I am more competitive. I want to win more than I hate the Longhorns, I guess.
I hear that.
Saying something.
Yeah, all right, so we have one more game to pick. It'll be that national championship game coming up 2 weeks from tonight on the 20th of the month. Folks, our segment brought to you by Choices Treatment Center. If you or someone you know is struggling with problem gambling, free treatment is available in Nebraska. Call Choices 24-hour helpline at 402-476-2300. For more information, they've got offices in Lincoln and in Columbus. All right, need to take a break. When we come back, hear a little bit from Fred Hoiberg at a press conference today. Huskers getting ready to play the Iowa Hawkeyes tomorrow night over in Iowa City. We'll hear from the head coach next.
There's something to be said for American-made, but at Monolith, we're helping create Nebraska-made. From here in Nebraska, we're producing low-emission carbon black for tires across North America. Soon we'll be providing farmers with locally made fertilizer to reduce our reliance on foreign imports. We're investing hundreds of millions in our multiple Nebraska facilities and employing Nebraskans in high-paying jobs that support families and communities. Monolith, Nebraska-made.
When you're in the stands and have the ability to control your irrigation in the field, it's a game-changing moment. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Experience real-time, play-by-play action and control that keeps you ahead. Score big with irrigation technology from Valley. It's technology that improves your life and lets you be at the game and in the game. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Welcome to the Make It Jingle with Kris Kringle podcast. Today we're talking to Jan from Toyota, all about Toyotathon.
Hi!
So, tell me about Toyotathon.
Well, from now until January 6th is the perfect time to get a new Camry, RAV4, Highlander, and more.
Oh, how exciting! So what can you do in a new Toyota this holiday season?
With a new RAV4, you can go snowboarding with your friends.
I love dashing through the snow.
Take a Camry to a tree lighting ceremony.
Sounds merry and bright.
Or even load up the family in a Highlander to go ice skating.
What a jolly good time. So, Jan, got any red Tacomas? After my big job, I'm taking the missus down to Florida to go surfing.
Florida? I'm there.
Dealer inventory may vary. Offers are subject to change throughout Toyotathon, which ends on January 6th. See your participating Toyota dealer for details. Toyota. Let's go places.
See your independently owned Omaha Metro Toyota dealers, Corin Toyota of Bellevue, Village Point Toyota of Omaha, or Baxter Toyota of La Vista.
Husker fans, it's game day, and Pizza Hut's got your perfect play. Score the game day special for just $29.99. Get 2 medium 3-topping pizzas, 8 boneless wings, and 5 breadsticks. Enough to feed 8 hungry fans. Pizza, wings, breadsticks, and more. It's the ultimate lineup to fuel your game day. Check out the full menu online at pizzahut.com or in store. Because remember, no one out-pizzas the Hut.
In the heartland, where ambition thrives, there are those who are made and those who are made for more. Just like the Huskers on game day, Kloss, a leading producer of ag equipment, unleashes the power of ambition in the field. Discover why our cutting-edge machinery and unwavering support aren't just a promise, they're a commitment to your success. Because at Kloss, we know you are made for more. Visit your Kloss dealer or CLAAS.com.
For farmers, sustainability is a way of life. 97% of farms are family-owned, and 95% are participating in conservation programs and using sustainable practices.
I'm Ann Neese, a farmer near Elgin, Nebraska. I grew up on this land, and we're dedicated to being good stewards and leaving it better for the next generation.
Since 1980, U.S. soybean farmers have boosted production by 130%, all while lowering emissions and improving land and water use. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
There's only one truck you should be looking at, the Ford F-150. The 2024 Ford F-150 is a Kelley Blue Book Best Buy. Has best-in-class towing and best-in-class payload. Available Pro Power on board lets you power the tools you need and get work done almost anywhere. With over-the-air updates, F-150 only gets better with time. F-150 is the only truck worth looking at.
Our Huskers Radio Network Broadcast Center, sponsored by Akrs. They are the Midwest's premier John Deere dealer, supplying the equipment and service to advance agriculture and much more. Akrs, solutions for every field. Greg Sharpe back with you on a Monday night, Sports Nightly here on the Huskers Radio Network. Want to give you the chat room guys who've had a pick'em contest throughout the year. Justin and Andy were their weekly winners, both 7-3. Shane and Sandy went 6-4 on the year. Shane leads it. He's got a 3-game lead on Andy, and Joseph is in third along with Justin. So those are your chat room standings. Appreciate those guys playing along with us throughout the fall. Well, earlier today, Fred Hoiberg, before the Huskers took off for Iowa City, had a press conference to break down the Iowa matchup for tomorrow night. We talked in his opening segment tonight about how well Sam Hoiberg played Saturday against UCLA. Here's the head coach on his son.
You know, I think it was Sam's best overall game from start to finish against UCLA. The effort plays, diving on the floor, the steal on Mack in transition when we were in a bad way when they had numbers to get it to Burke for a 3 on the other end. And, the big steal late on Mack as well and, hitting the shot, the big 3 there in the second half. So I thought Sam was terrific. And, we're going to need him to continue to give that defensive energy. He does such a good job of talking when he's out there on the floor. He's in the right spots. And, it's good to see him knock down a shot. He's been shooting it well in practice, and hopefully that gives him some confidence on the offensive end. But, yeah, you always know what you're going to get from him on the defensive end of the floor.
His stat line impressive. 22 minutes, 7 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals. Just remarkable. And just those hustle plays that fire the crowd up, fire his teammates up when he makes those plays. Now, Nebraska last year had a couple of huge wins. Obviously, that one over Purdue and then big come from behind win over Wisconsin, but they didn't back it up maybe as well. The next game out, here's the coach talking about trying to put Saturday behind them and get ready for tomorrow night's game.
Well, believe me, we talked a lot about it after the game the other day, and you could see it. I think the guys' emotions were pretty much in check after that game. I didn't think guys were too high. After the Purdue game, when you get a court storm like we did, I think the guys went out and had a lot of fun after that game, and then we didn't bounce back with any type of energy early in the game at Iowa. And again, if you're not ready to go in this one, their pace, the way they get the ball off the floor, if your first three steps aren't with urgency, it's going to be a really long night of basketball. And, again, I think Iowa's got their talent on the offensive end is as good as anybody, not only in the league but in the country. And you look at the games they've played. They had Iowa State down double digits. I think Iowa State might be the best team in the country right now. You look at what at Michigan after they got off to a slow start, had a chance to win it. They had a shot at the buzzer to win the game. Knocking off Northwestern at home as well. So this team is really good. You don't look at what happened in the last one. They're going to bounce back with a lot of fire, and we better be ready for it.
So, Coach gave you a little bit of a thumbprint about the Iowa Hawkeyes. Here's a little bit more detail about the challenges the Hawkeyes present the Huskers.
Well, they're Iowa's second in the nation in scoring. They're so potent in their attack. They've always got five guys on the floor that can make a play and make a shot. They don't turn it over. They do a really good job of finding the hot hand, and they run a lot of very random type action. So it's a hard game to prep for just because of all the different things that they do, to keep you moving. And it's one of the best ball movement, player movement team that we'll face all year. And we got it handed to us in their building last year in a similar win, an emotional win at home, and then we did not respond well. We have to be better this game if we want to have any chance. And it was the start. They were up 17-2 on us. We did a good job coming back. I think we had it tied. Maybe even took a 1-point lead in the second half, and then they got really hot. They're really hard to shut off if you let them get comfortable and let them get confident. So this is a game we have to go out and get off to a good start. I anticipate them, coming out all over the place with what happened in their last one, similar to what happened to us against Michigan State. So, it's an important game. All these conference games are. And, we're going to try to go out and continue to play, confident basketball, unselfish basketball, and hopefully give ourselves a chance.
7 o'clock tip tomorrow. We'll be on the air on the network with pregame at 6. Kent Pavelka, Jake Muehlheisen with the call. A couple of Big Ten games tonight. Wisconsin at the half leads Rutgers 43-34. And later tonight, Ohio State is at the Barn taking on Minnesota. Also, I'm keeping my eye on that FCS Football National Championship game. North Dakota State leads 14-3 midway through the second quarter down in Frisco, Texas. Could be another national title for the Bison of NDSU. All right, need to step aside, get a break. Hey, our text line's open if you want to converse tonight, 402-413-2400. We're back to wrap up hour one next.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? You might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra, the perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
There's only one truck you should be looking at, the Ford F-150. The 2024 Ford F-150 is a Kelley Blue Book Best Buy. Has best-in-class towing and best-in-class payload. Available Pro Power on board lets you power the tools you need and get work done almost anywhere. With over-the-air updates, F-150 only gets better with time. F-150 is the only truck worth looking at.
Attention, Husker Nation. Are you ready to power up your game? Sap Brothers high-quality off-road red diesel is the fuel that powers your equipment. As official sponsors of the Huskers, we're here with a winning offer with the Sap Brothers Go Big Red Fuel Giveaway. Contract your upcoming fuel needs by February 1st and enter to win 1,000 free gallons of our off-road red diesel to keep your engine roaring and equipment running strong. Sap Brothers fuels Husker Nation. Visit sapbros.net/fuel giveaway for more info.
Woodhouse has been a trusted partner in your everyday since 1975. Go shop for your next vehicle with the home team at Woodhouse and the official auto dealer of Nebraska Athletics. Those playoff games coming your way Thursday and Friday night. Thursday night, it is the Capital One Orange Bowl, Notre Dame, Penn State. The game will kick off at 6:30 our time. Irish now a 2.5-point favorite in that game. And then the next night, same time, 6:30, the Cotton Bowl in Dallas or Arlington. With Texas and Ohio State, the Buckeyes favored by 5.5 points in that game. You have a real shot here of an all Big Ten championship game with Penn State, Ohio State. The rest of the country would loathe that if that ends up happening on January the 20th. But I think it'd be kind of cool. So Buckeyes, Longhorns Friday, Irish, Penn State on Thursday night. And as I told you, the FCS National Championship game going on tonight. North Dakota State with a 14-3 lead with 5 minutes to go in the first half. They're playing that game down in Frisco, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas, a northern suburb of Dallas. Husker wrestling had a tough duel yesterday. Got beat by another top 10 team, Northern Iowa, over in Cedar Falls. Did not really see that coming. I thought Nebraska would win that duel tightly. Did not. Now they get ready for conference play. Minnesota will be at the Devaney Center this weekend for a duel, and then Penn State in 2 weeks. And they are making a real emphasis to try to sell out the Devaney Center for number 1 ranked Penn State coming to wrestle the Cornhuskers there. And I kind of think maybe not winning that duel yesterday might end up being a good thing for Mark Manning's team, might motivate them a little bit to kind of get fired up and get ready to get after things again. Northern Iowa is a good program. It's a top, and they're ranked 10th in the country, so it's not like they got beat by some rummy. But I really thought Nebraska would go over there and win the duel. Close, but I thought they would win the duel. But did not get that going. So back home, again, two chances to go see them here in Lincoln this weekend with Minnesota, next weekend with Penn State. As Big Ten season gets cranked up and underway, should be some incredible duels coming up in Big Ten wrestling. This is an unbelievable league for wrestling. So be interesting to see how that plays out for Mark Manning and the Cornhuskers. Husker women's gymnastics opened their year in Nashville. They were in a 4-team meet, ended up 4th, put up a 194 score. Not bad for out of the gate. I know it probably will want to keep climbing that up a little bit, but there's room to grow for Heather Brink's team. We're going to try to talk to Heather coming up here later on in the week. They do not come back home for their first home duel until later in the month on the 26th of January. Husker men's gym gets going here in about a week or so. They start out in the Rocky Mountain Open out in Colorado in a couple of weeks, but they're a few weeks behind the women starting up their season. So the winter sports getting underway. And indoor track and field will also be cranked up as Coach Sinclair's team will be starting to compete at the Devaney Center. Several indoor meets coming up for the Huskers in the coming weeks. Nebraska should be one of the favorites to win the Big Ten indoor on both the men's and women's side. So that'll be here before you know it with that Big Ten indoor championships. Love this time of year, kind of a second crossover time of the year. Well, when we come back, a real treat for us. Going to talk to Lane Grindle, one of the former hosts of this show. He filled in for me for the Iowa and the Pinstripe Bowl. We'll talk to Lane about college football, college sports, Major League Baseball, which is the world he lives in now. All that coming up in hour 2. Come on back.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
You expect your home to protect everything you love, but you don't expect the ways water is breaking down your foundation and damaging your home. Cracks in walls and uneven floors are just a few signs your foundation is compromised. But there's one way to get answers to all your concerns. A free home inspection from Groundworks. We put water back in its place. Get your free inspection at groundworks.com. License number C142293.
On game day, every play counts. Now imagine having the same level of control in your field. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Real-time, play-by-play control means you're always ahead of the game. Score big with simplified irrigation technology from Valley, improving your life both on and off the field. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
Nebraskans are choosing chiropractic for better health. Why chiropractic? Because it's safe, drug-free, and a cost-effective treatment option for back and joint pain. Plus, all generations can benefit from natural chiropractic care. Choose chiropractic first for pain relief or to improve your mobility, athletic performance, or overall wellness. Make chiropractic your first choice for better health, and find a chiropractic physician near you at nebraska-chiropractic.org. Get your life back with chiropractic.
In the heartland, where ambition thrives, there are those who are made and those who are made for more. Just like the Huskers on game day, Kloss, a leading producer of ag equipment, unleashes the power of ambition in the field. Discover why our cutting-edge machinery and unwavering support aren't just a promise, they're a commitment to your success. Because at Kloss, we know you are made for more. Visit your Kloss dealer or CLAAS.com.
Good evening. I'm David Swotek, and our sports ticker is brought to you by the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. Nebraska men's basketball has had a fantastic start to their season so far, winning the last 6 games in a row, most recently against number 22 UCLA 66-58. The next matchup for the Huskers is at Carver Hawkeye Center to face Iowa. Head coach Fred Hoiberg discusses how the former Hawkeye Aaron Eulis will play a part in this upcoming game.
Yeah, I mean, you talk to him about, just maybe some different calls that are out there, some different tendencies, whether it's offense, defense, and, it's good we were able to keep him low minutes the other night, but we're going to need him the rest of the conference schedule.
A couple of Huskers have been put on the awards list this week, starting with volleyball. Libero Lexi Rodriguez was named a finalist for the Class of 2025 Honda Sport Award for Volleyball. The other finalists include Olivia Babcock for Pittsburgh, Brooklyn Deely from Kentucky, and Sarah Franklin from Wisconsin. The winner of this award will move on to be a finalist in the Collegiate Women Athlete of the Year and the 2025 Honda Cup. Heading over to women's tennis now, Anna Zembrick was put on the Big Ten preseason watch list for this upcoming season. The senior from Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, has a singles record of 33-44, with 14 of those wins coming from last spring. In doubles action, Zembrick has a record of 33-21 with her teammate Anfisa Danilchenko, reaching a top spot of number 25 last season. Zembrick and the Huskers will showcase their skills at UC Riverside to begin the season on January 16th. Timeout. If you or someone you know is struggling or in crisis, the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is there. Call, text, or chat 988. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Coming up next is Hour 2 of Sports Nightly, right here on the Huskers Radio Network.
Coming to you live from Memorial Stadium, it's Sports Nightly. All the Huskers, all the time. Sports Nightly is presented to you by the NDOT Highway Safety Office, who remind you to buckle up and put the phone down.
Here comes UCLA the other way. Sebastian Mack, jump stop in the paint. It's taken away from him by Hoiberg. Hoiberg stripped him. Hoiberg across the timeline. Hoiberg waits for his teammates. On the pass to Butenjel, puts it up. Got it! Bang! Hooray! Hoiberg driving, left lane line stopping, goes weak side, bounce pass. Morgan's got it, strong with the ball, puts it up and in, and one. Nebraska with a 9-point lead, their biggest of the game. What a strong move by Morgan.
Rebound Campbell, Penn State looks to retake the lead. Britt Prince knocked it away at half court. Bojan got the loose ball. Bojan volleyball bats it to Prince. Rimdahl for 3, deep left wing. You betcha! Off the assist from Britt Prince. Out Bernie Rimdahl with a Central Valley A3. Forces a Penn State timeout.
Now, here are your hosts, Greg Sharpe and Jessica Coody on the Huskers Radio Network.
And boy, do we have a treat for you tonight. We're going to talk to one of the old hosts of Sports Nightly and the gentleman who filled in for me for the Iowa broadcast and the Pinstripe Bowl, and now with the Milwaukee Brewers, Lane Grindle, joining us from his home outside of Milwaukee. Thank you so much for giving us some time tonight.
I have some time to give right now, so it was an easy decision. No, I'm thrilled to be here tonight and to be on the air with you, Sharpie. It's kind of like old times. It's like we're in a baseball booth. Maybe we're at Allie P. Reynolds Stadium in Stillwater, Oklahoma together.
We had a lot of great spots that we hit before you departed for the major leagues. Moving on down that, I want to just get your thoughts about Husker football. You got to see a handful of games as you were waiting in the wings in case I needed some help, and then got to call the last 2. Your thoughts about the way the Huskers season went in year 2 for Matt Rhule?
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, the reason that I was around wasn't something that made me smile, but it was nice to be around the program again a little bit because, as you know as well as anybody, Greg, even though I moved to Milwaukee almost 10 years ago, I've never stopped being a Husker fan, and I've kind of had more the 30,000-foot view than the up-close view of Nebraska football over the last 9 seasons or so, and unfortunately they've been a little lean, but I've still been a big fan and been dialed in every Saturday when I can be. September sometimes is a little tough depending on game times, but it was nice to be around the program and to see things from a little different vantage point than I have since I left for the Brewers. But I just think to break through and get the sixth win, no, it's not what Nebraska football has set as a standard for the majority of its modern history, but it was a standard they needed to get back to this year. So to get it and to do it against Wisconsin, which is a team that's been a thorn in Nebraska's side, frankly, since they joined the Big Ten, I thought was also especially sweet for that program and for the fans. And then to go ahead and put a little exclamation point on it by winning against Boston College in the Pinstripe Bowl, I thought was critical. You know, does that win lead to a better performance against Cincinnati on that Thursday night to open up the season in late August? I don't know that you can say that, but I'll tell you what it does do is it just gives you a little bit more positive thing to talk about, to sell all off season as you're bringing guys in to try to entertain from the portal, as you're trying to recruit for your 2026 class and beyond. I think it just makes the vibes around those offices so much better, helps wash away what was probably a little bit of a tough pill to swallow after the Iowa loss. And so I think some important steps were taken. I think there are still really important steps to be taken. And I'm excited about those because I think Nebraska football is positioned very well, especially with the right guy at quarterback, to make a big leap next year. And I think probably everybody listening and watching tonight would agree with that.
You mentioned the quarterback. Your thoughts about Dylan? I mean, it's not easy to come in as a true freshman, learn an offense, gain the respect of your peers, and go perform. What did you make of his first year?
I thought he was a freshman. I thought he was a very talented freshman, a freshman that everybody should be really excited about. But I think at times, because a five-star quarterback that is one of the top 4 or 5 players in the country coming in, those guys don't walk through those doors at Nebraska that often anymore. It's just hard to get those caliber of players consistently. And so to get one of those guys and outcompete, you know, one of the programs in the country right now in Georgia, to get him from there, and after he was committed and previously committed to Ohio State, is a huge thing for Nebraska. But I think we also probably don't realize that he is still a freshman. And he is still playing at this level in the Big Ten, one of the 2 really premier conferences in college football. And there are going to be some growing pains here and there. And I think he went through those. But I still think if you look at the season in totality, this is a really special player, a really exciting player. I think he understands the fishbowl effect at Nebraska better than your average quarterback that walks through the door. He knows there's going to be attention on him. He knows that everything he does is going to be scrutinized. And I think he's maybe not comfortable with it, because I don't know that anybody's ever totally comfortable with it, but I think he understands how to handle it. And I think that's really important. And I think it just sets him up to make a big leap next year. We saw the raw talent. We saw some of the passes and the throws that make you go, ooh, this is special. But now can he consistently play 4 quarters, game in and game out, like I think he's capable of? I think if you go back and you look over the years, so often that second year in the program is when some of these guys really take off. So I think they've done a nice job going and finding talent to put around him, maybe upgrading in some spots pretty significantly. We'll see what they do from an offensive line standpoint in the portal too. But that's one of the beautiful things about this era of college football, even though it can be maybe a little uneasy and uncomfortable for some people sometimes, is that you can really, you can address needs immediately through the portal and really help your team from one year to the next and make big leaps. And I just think Nebraska offensively, with Dana Holgorsen having an entire offense off season to have his hands on this offense and to be in the ear of Dylan Raiola, I don't think that's a small thing either. Probably should have led with that, because I think, and I've told you this off air many times, Greg, I think if you were going to poll me before this season started on the 10 best play callers in college football, I probably would have put Dana Holgorsen in that mix. Mm-hmm. So to now have him being the play caller for Nebraska is a really big deal. Something we shouldn't take for granted. When that Iowa game ended, I was really eager to see if Nebraska could lock Dana Holgorsen in and make him their offensive coordinator moving forward, because I figured he'd have options. I think it's a big deal for Matt Rule to get him locked in.
Visiting with Lane Grindle, former host of Sports Night, now with the Milwaukee Brewers, and we are going to talk some MLB baseball with Lane coming up here in just a little bit. You talked about the portal and remaking your roster, and boy, there's no better example of that than what Indiana did this past year, where they just completely overhauled it and end up in the college football playoff. You've been away from Lincoln for almost 10 years. It's stunning how much the college space has changed, right, with NIL and the portal. It's hard to wrap your mind around how much change has happened.
It's hard to keep up with. If you're not living it daily and you do what I've done, which is, I mean, honestly, when I'm in the middle of my Major League Baseball season from late February, essentially, through the end of September, I'm so preoccupied with that. Everything else I'm following is as a casual fan, frankly. I mean, I try to follow the Huskers as closely as I can, but there's still things that once you start really dialing in October, you're like, wait, what? I missed that because you're busy with baseball. So if you're not living it on a daily basis, it can be, I mean, it changes fast. It sure does. And there's just a lot that goes into all of this. I mean, think about the things that they're talking about this offseason about, JUCO no longer counting towards eligibility. So you can go to JUCO and basically get some free years before your clock starts when you go to your Division I program and really start your career. They're talking about now just 5 years of eligibility perhaps being a thing. All of those things. I love college athletics. I love college football, no matter how much it changes. I think I'm always going to change with it and love it because it's just so much fun to fill your Saturday with. But it is a totally different beast than when I left back in 2016. Everything is very different. I think we saw some of it coming at that point, but I don't know if we knew exactly how it was going to look once it got here. And in some ways, maybe some things came before others, and it might not have been the most organized way to roll all of this out. But because of lawsuits and everything else, that's how we ended up where we're at. But I do think that it's good that players are going to get a piece of the pie, ultimately. I think that's a good thing, or are getting a piece of the pie. I think that's a good thing. And I think, for me, I've always felt like NIL could be a great advantage for Nebraska. Nebraska was on the forefront when it came to the weight room and Husker power. They were on the forefront for so many things that they did over the years, and it helped them gain an advantage. And I think NIL can be one of those advantages for Nebraska, too. Maybe not in the same way that those things were for Nebraska back in the 70s and 80s specifically, but I think that Nebraska's fan base and the passion and their willingness to move mountains to try to help this program is a huge, huge advantage for Nebraska. And as this thing continues to get ironed out, and now we got rev share as a part of this thing too, which is going to even the playing field a little bit. But I think the NIL piece can be an advantage for Nebraska because I think they're always going to be willing and they're always going to have the resources because the people are eager to see Nebraska win, to compete with a lot of big schools for some of the big players that are out there kind of in free agency.
You mentioned the 70s and 80s, and some people still pine for those days. But there was certainly tiers of where you live, what neighborhood you lived in college football. Now it's that those tiers have gotten cloudy. It's shrunk.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that think with NIL and the portal that parity is going to become even more of a bigger thing in college football. Do you buy that maybe now we're going to spread it out, that maybe 30 or 40 schools really have a shot of making the playoff every year?
I think the playoff combined with this leads to that, right? To have the playoff expanded like it is, there's just more bites at the apple to go get. And it probably encourages some of these programs to be more aggressive in the portal and with NIL because they realize, hey, maybe 3 or 4 guys here, we might be able to be that 10 seed or whatever it is and get ourselves into the playoff. And getting into that playoff's a big deal. It's a great thing to sell for those teams in the offseason. So I think there's some truth to that. Now, I think when you talk about tiers, to me, there's going to be one big tier. And then another tier that probably doesn't have a great chance to get themselves into that mix anymore because it's just going to be hard to compete. So where there were tiers before, I think you're going to have the Big Ten and SEC and a handful of teams from the other conferences that are really your true players in this thing. And it's going to be a little bit smaller pool that feed into that 12-team playoff, but you're going to see more variety within that pool of teams that make it to the 12 teams. That's my own theory on it. I don't know that we totally know yet how all this stuff is going to affect and really, frankly, how they might change the playoff again the next time they have a chance to negotiate it out. Maybe we have home playoff sites for the first 2 rounds, so we're not stressing the fans to travel so much with 3 straight rounds of bowl games from quarterfinals on. If you make it all the way to the championship, I guess the championship is not technically a bowl game, but you understand my point. It's a neutral site game that you'd have to travel to. So I think this is still an ever-changing thing. It's starting to come into focus, but I think there's still some pretty important things that'll either be ironed out, tweaked, or maybe changed still in the next 10 years before we really have a good feel of how it's going to settle in.
Got a text from Carter. It says, hey, Greg, please tell Lane he did a great job calling the game. So there you go. You got a fan out there.
Well, thank you, Carter.
How was that being in the booth? You are now, I think you are now 2-1 calling Husker football on the radio.
Yeah, that's right. I filled in for you in 2008 when Nebraska was at Kansas State, and your wonderful wife Amy went into labor, and Taylor Sharpe came into the world, and so you had to leave after the pregame show, and I had to step in and call that game, and we got through it. Nebraska scored, I think, 50. It was 50-plus points. Against Kansas State that day. I don't know the exact number, but I know it was 50-plus. And, then, yes, calling these last 2 games. The Iowa game was a heartbreaker, of course. It was fun to call the win at the Pinstripe Bowl. But, yeah, it was fun being in the booth. I mean, you know how much Nebraska means to me. The Huskers are always going to be a big deal to me for the rest of my life. I grew up a Husker fan. I grew up in the area, even though I was on the other side of the river in Iowa. But I was a kid of the 90s. So if you were an hour from Lincoln, you were a Husker fan. And that's just who I was, and that's who I'll always be, moving forward. So, yeah, it was nice to be in the booth. Was always thinking of you because it's more fun to be in the booth when you're in the booth with us like we were in Columbus. That's the way it was supposed to be. And the dinner we had the night before was phenomenal. Had a blast with you in Columbus too. So it was just fun to be around and to be with the team a little bit this past year. And I was happy to be able to step in for you a couple of times and fill in. But it's such a great program. It's such a unique place. And the fans just never cease to amaze me. And I was at the Indiana game. You called that game, but I was there. And just to watch how many Husker fans traveled to that game. And, little Bloomington, Indiana, when I was leaving the stadium, and it's hard to get out of there. And there's Husker fans everywhere. And you think about, at that point, you're like, this is a program that hasn't been to a bowl game in 8 years. And this is still the passion. This is what this fan base does. They don't blink, even in tough times. And so to be able to narrate a few games was certainly an honor.
You worked with Damon, and it helped, I think, that you had known Damon for a long time, correct?
Yeah, Damon and I don't even know if Damon would remember this, but we hosted a really short, little 45-minute show one day in 2004 on an Omaha radio station in between College World Series games. That was when I met him for the first time. So I've technically known Damon for 20 years. And, over the years, and I covered Nebraska, of course, for 10 years. So our paths would cross a lot during that time as well. And we have a lot of mutual friends, as you can imagine. And so that made it really easy because I'm so familiar with Damon. I know how he likes to work for the most part. And I think he knew enough about me to kind of be able to feel me out through the first series or two and go, okay, this is how he's going to do it. We can work together just fine. And it was incredible how easy it was to work with him. And Ben McLaughlin being in the booth helped both of us too, because he's phenomenal, as you know, behind the scenes. He does so much stuff to kind of keep everything on the tracks. But yeah, working with Damon was really fun. It was fun to get a chance to be with him in the booth, and he's such a great football mind, as you know. He sees the game so well. He's so well prepared. He's a total professional in the booth, and there's nothing that I felt like I couldn't ask him or set him up with in the booth that he wouldn't be able to use a baseball, analogy, that he wouldn't be able to swing at and at least hit for a single, maybe hit it over the fence. And so that's awesome as a play-by-play guy, because you have this trust and this comfort in the person next to you that you can go anywhere you want to, and they're going to pick up whatever you put down. And that's what Damon is. So it was great to work with him. It was really fun to reconnect with him for those 2 games and spend a little bit of time with Damon, because he's a great football mind. And I'm excited for Caleb. I mean, for Caleb to be on the 2 deep for the bowl game, trending in the right direction at the end of your freshman year, I just think that's exciting, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what Caleb's going to be able to do for Nebraska in the future, and what a fun thing for Dad to be in the booth and be able to watch it all unfold.
Absolutely. I'm tracking tonight the FCS championship game. North Dakota State at the half leads 21-3 on Montana State. You calling that Iowa game was not your first football game of the fall.
No.
You do some Missouri Valley football, which is a conference you know very well. You went to one of the conference schools, and I know you follow it pretty closely, and probably not surprised that the Bison are winning tonight.
No, the Bison, it's just a great program. And no matter who's been the head coach, I mean, everybody understands, I think, and knows back in Lincoln that Craig Bull got that thing started. They'd kind of fallen on some tough times. Bob Babich, I think people know who Bobby Babich is. He's a big assistant in the NFL these days. His father, Bob Babich, who was also an NFL assistant after his time at NDSU as the head coach, he had done well at NDSU, but they had high standards there. And they finally decided they wanted to find somebody that could take them to the next level, and like they had in the past. And Craig Bull comes in, and boom. I mean, it didn't take very long, and everything just took off. And he gave way to Chris Kleiman. Chris Kleiman gave way to Matt Entz, who's now the head coach at Fresno State.
Yeah.
And they just kept that whole thing rolling at NDSU. They had kind of taken, for their standard, a step back the last couple of years. That's kind of being, I think, a little overly critical, because their standard is you win the championship or it's a failure. It's a bad season. I mean, that's what they had established at NDSU. And SDSU and a guy that I have so much respect for in John Stiegelmeier kind of caught NDSU and found a way to put themselves in that same conversation and got the best of NDSU a couple of times through that whole thing. And Stig, of course, is now retired, and now SDSU has had to replace his replacement. Dan Jackson's going to be the head coach at South Dakota State. But NDSU to get back to the championship, a big deal. Shamar Brown's a really exciting running back. I don't think they've had a running back quite like him in a few years. So happy for them. It's a great program. It's such a good conference, Greg. I get a chance to call, usually 2 games a year on television for the Missouri Valley Football Conference. This year I did North Dakota at Indiana State, and then I did North Dakota at Illinois State. And Illinois State was a playoff team themselves and had a really nice team with Brock Spack, who's been there a long time, old Purdue Boilermaker. But they just have, I would liken it to the Big Ten or the SEC of FCS football. I mean, if you can be in the top 3 in that conference going into the playoffs, you got a great shot to win the national championship. And, the Big Sky is probably the other big one that stands out. And Montana State, of course, coming out of the Big Sky, they've kind of found their footing again after they had taken a step back a few years back. So fun matchup with those 2 teams. But, man, the Valley, I mean, they just, Youngstown State made the championship about 8 years ago with Bo Pelini. South Dakota State has won some championships. NDSU has won a lot of national championships. And I think they've got some other programs that can put themselves in that mix too in the coming years. It's a great league.
Good stuff. Hey, we're going to take a break. You in for another segment? We talk some baseball?
Oh, yeah. You bet. Absolutely.
Very good. Lane Grindle, one of the voices of the Milwaukee Brewers, filled in for me for the Pinstripe Bowl and the Iowa game, currently with the Brewers broadcast. We'll talk some MLB coming up next.
No matter what color you wear on game day or what color tractor you drive, there's one color Nebraskans trust to be a partner for life lived well. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Nebraska combines national power with Nebraska roots. Awarded the best health insurance experience in the heartland, Blue Cross delivers affordable, high-quality health plans for Medicare groups and individuals. Head to nebraskablue.com to find the coverage that's right for you. Team Blue says, go Big Red.
Nebraskans are choosing chiropractic for better health. Why chiropractic? Because it's safe, drug-free, and a cost-effective treatment option for back and joint pain. Plus, all generations can benefit from natural chiropractic care. Choose chiropractic first for pain relief or to improve your mobility, athletic performance, or overall wellness. Make chiropractic your first choice for better health and find a chiropractic physician near you at nebraska-chiropractic.org. Get your life back with chiropractic.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? You might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra, the perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
I got to see my brother get married.
I would have missed my dad's birthday.
Because I wore my seatbelt, I had the privilege of being part of his special day.
I got to go home and see my family again.
Does it click yet?
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
I would have never had the chance to see my daughter become a doctor.
I was able to go to my brother's graduation.
I wouldn't have adopted my first pet.
And then it clicked. My seatbelt saved my life. Does it click yet?
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Nebraska soybeans power everyday products, from Goodyear tires and Skechers shoes to soy-based turf and fire suppressants. These innovations replace petroleum and utilize other components of the soybean, leading to more sustainable products worldwide.
I'm Doug Sadoff, a farmer near Trumbull, Nebraska. Thanks to cutting-edge research, soybeans are now in everything from tires to turf. It's amazing to see how these advancements are unlocking new potential for our crops.
Soybeans are a win for every product and everyone. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
Nebraskans are choosing chiropractic for better health. Why chiropractic? Because it's safe, drug-free, and a cost-effective treatment option for back and joint pain. Plus, all generations can benefit from natural chiropractic care. Choose chiropractic first for pain relief or to improve your mobility, athletic performance, or overall wellness. Make chiropractic your first choice for better health and find a chiropractic physician near you at nebraska-chiropractic.org. Get your life back with chiropractic.
When you're in the stands and have the ability to control your irrigation in the field, it's a game-changing moment. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Experience real-time, play-by-play action and control that keeps you ahead. Score big with irrigation technology from Valley. It's technology that improves your life and lets you be at the game and in the game. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
You may have heard about Monolith, how right here in Nebraska, we're producing low-emission carbon black for tires across North America, how we'll soon be providing farmers with locally made fertilizer to reduce our reliance on foreign imports, how we're investing hundreds of millions in multiple Nebraska facilities. You might have heard Monolith is changing the world. We're not. You are. Along with many other Nebraskans in high-paying jobs that support families and communities. Monolith, Nebraska made.
Woodhouse has been a trusted partner in your everyday since 1975. Shop for your next vehicle with the home team at Woodhouse and the official auto dealer of Nebraska Athletics. Joined here in hour two of Sports on Midnight by Lane Grindle, former host of the show. What years did you host Sports on Midnight?
I hosted, so I was hired in December of 05. I started in January of 06.
Okay.
And I hosted until, I think my last day was like the same day that Nebraska was officially minted into the Big Ten Conference. So it was like summer of 2011.
2011
was when, yeah, the 2010 is when all the craziness went down, that was fun. covering all of that and following all the conference expansion and the musical chairs that was going on. And then there was a little bit, basically a year of normalcy. And then right when Nebraska entered the Big Ten Conference is when I stepped away from Sports Nightly, stayed with the network, of course, as sideline reporter for football, and did baseball play-by-play with you still, and hosted some TV shows. I think I did Tim Miles' television show and Doc Sadler's television show. But that was so like 5.5 years I hosted Sports Nightly. So I'm an alum of SN.
Yeah, there you go. Well, now you're off to Milwaukee. You got the call to the big leagues. I remember, I think I was even maybe with you when you got kind of the official notice that you were getting interviewed. And I think I told you, you're going to get this thing. And boy, has it worked out. You have really done a great job in Milwaukee. And I know you really appreciate that organization.
I do. And I remember that moment really well. And you're right. That's exactly what happened. You and I were hosting a signing day show. We had gotten a bad snowstorm in Lincoln that day. And so we had to dig out of our driveways and get down to North Stadium for the signing day show that we were doing on Huskers.com. We had Alex Gordon coming in and all sorts of, fun guests. And I got the email during one of our commercial breaks that they wanted to interview me, and I showed it to you, and you said, "It's been fun working with you." It was basically, I think, your comment to me, and it was great because it gave me a lot of confidence in a moment where I was like, oh my gosh, Major League Baseball. And a couple of weeks later, I got the job. So it's been a thrill. This is a wonderful organization. You're right, Greg. They have been so good to me. I will be starting my 10th year when I leave for spring training at the end of February. And really excited for another season. I've been a part of, I haven't been a part of it, but I've been able to narrate what I would say is the golden era of Milwaukee Brewers baseball. Every year since 2017, at the beginning of 2017, the Brewers have been in the mix for the postseason. There have been 2 games since the beginning of the 2017 season where the Brewers weren't eligible to make the playoffs.
Crazy.
And that was game 162 of 2017 because they missed the wild card that year by 1 game. And then that was game 162 of 2022, and they missed going into the wild card that year by 1 game by the Phillies, and the Phillies ended up going on to the World Series. They've answered that by coming back and winning the division in back-to-back years. They've won the division in 3 of the last 4 years in the NL Central, and they do it all while being the smallest market in Major League Baseball. It's an incredibly well run organization, and I'm lucky to be a part of it, and they treat their people great. So love it here. It's a wonderful, wonderful place, and they're really supportive of all the other stuff that we do beyond our day jobs with the Brewers, which is also great. They allow us to go out and do freelance work like I did with the Missouri Valley Conference, like I've done with some FS1 basketball for college hoops over the years. And so really grateful for the Brewers and everything they've done for me and all the fun times I've been able to narrate. I mean, I giving you a long-winded answer, and I haven't mentioned that I get to work with Bob Uecker yet and how much fun that is and what a thrill it is and how every day is like a front row seat to a masterclass in play-by-play and stand-up comedy at the same time. But to be sitting next to him for so many great moments, to be on the call myself for some pretty cool moments in Brewers history has been a thrill. And I learned so much from you in the years we worked together and so many other great broadcasters that have come into my life over the years. But, and you know this, the best way to grow is to continue to expand and be around different people. And the things I've learned from Bob Uecker are priceless and more than I ever thought I would. Like when I left, I wasn't sure what's my relationship going to be with this legend. Is he going to take me under his wing? Is it one of those things where I just need to stay out of his way? And well, it's been amazing. He is one of my best friends. He's absolutely taken me under his wing and supports me every step of the way. And he's given me great advice on being a broadcaster, but also in life. And so I'm grateful for him. He's been one of the reasons why it's so great here is because of him, because he sets the tone for all of us.
We talked in the last segment about all the changes to college sports. Major League Baseball and baseball in general has gone through a bunch of big changes. We got a clock now in baseball. Nobody ever thought that would happen. You've got other things. Your thoughts about some of the rule changes that you've experienced in your time in the big leagues?
It's another example of why you should never listen to me initially, because we were just laughing during the break. I was talking about how I was in college at the University of South Dakota when NDSU and SDSU went Division I, and I thought this is just the worst thing they could do for their athletic departments, and it's been the greatest thing they could have ever done for their athletic departments. And it's the same thing with the clock. When they said they were going to go to a clock, I was like, good luck enforcing that. These guys aren't going to do that. This is going to be a mess. And it's been one of the best things I think baseball's ever done. And I was really skeptical, and it's hard for me to say I'm wrong, but I was wrong. It has been a phenomenal thing for the game. And it's not just that the game is sped up. Like the amount of time I spend at the stadium isn't a huge deal to me, but I want the pace of play to be good. I want there to be action. I want the ball to be in play. I want to see the game of baseball and not a bunch of standing around and 40 seconds between pitches. And they've eliminated that. And all that wasteful time that was in the game is, for the most part, gone. Baseball's still unique, and it's going to be a different type of sport than basketball or football, for sure. But they have cleaned it up in that way, and I think it's just such a better product. And the ratings have shown that as well. The game is in a really healthy spot. I know there's a few writers that are out there that maybe just aren't baseball people, and so they will say things in generalities about baseball that just aren't right. I will defend this game for the rest of my life. I think it's just a beautiful game. There's so much poetry in it. It is, the phrase, how can you not be romantic about baseball? The Billy Bean phrase from Moneyball. It's so true so often. It's wonderful. But I think one of their biggest issues was pace of play, and I think they've fixed it in a big way, and it's been great. And the larger bases, Greg, I don't know if they're a direct result of or they've directly impacted the increase in running, but I think more stolen bases in the game is good for the game too. It's just more exciting to see guys moving on the base paths, and so the lack of pickoff moves, capping that, I think helps too. But a little bit more athleticism in the game as a result of some of these changes, and I think that's been ultimately good for the game.
They are talking about letting you pick a guy come to bat at any situation. I don't know that I like that. I'm not sure I'm on board for that. That all right, you got two on, and you can go grab Shohei Ohtani and go, all right, we're putting you in here at the bat, right? I don't know that I'm a fan of that. I hope they don't go that direction. But I was wrong on the other ones too. So
yeah, I've been wrong on all these, so I know what you mean. Yeah, I would be with you. I don't think that's something that the baseball purist in me is like, no way. Dave Roberts probably doesn't want that to happen, because how does he pick who his batter is? I mean, am I going to pick Mookie? Am I going to pick Freddie Freeman? Am I going to pick Shohei? Probably pick Shohei, I suppose. But I don't know that I think that is the way to do it. I think for me, if I was giving advice to the commissioner into baseball, and nobody's asking for my opinion, but you apparently are, I would say you've made these changes. They were pretty shocking and big changes to the sport. Let it sit for a little bit. Yeah, I think everybody's pretty good with where the game's at right now. Let's enjoy this. Let's have some stability within what we've changed, and let's let it really kind of grow some roots. That's what I would say. I know they're talking about, automated strike zone, an ABS system, automatic balls and strikes with a challenge system maybe. I think we'll probably get to that eventually. I don't think the technology is all the way where they want it to be yet to bring it to the big leagues. I think that's the next big change that'll happen. And I don't think it's next year. They're going to toy with it, I think, a little bit in spring training. But I think they're still a little ways away from doing that at the big league level. But I think that's probably the next big thing that's coming to baseball from a rule standpoint.
Well, I know you're a big fan of college baseball and a big fan of Will Bolt. I know follow the Huskers through. Your thoughts about Will and his impact right now on Husker baseball?
Now, I'm going to say this about Will, and I'm going to lump it in with so many of the other coaches that are at the University of Nebraska right now. I am a father, and I have 4 kids. I have a sophomore right now and a freshman, and then I have a a fifth grader, and then my son is my only boy, and he's in third grade, and he is sports crazy. And so often now, when I look at coaches, I think of what I want my son to play for them. And Matt Rule, Fred Hoiberg, absolutely. And when I look at Will Bolt, there's nobody I'd rather have my kid play for than Will Bolt. He's a friend of mine, as you know. I was over at your house last week after the bowl game, and Will was texting me while we were sitting there. He's a wonderful, wonderful human being. He's a great baseball guy. He is a competitor, and don't let that get lost. He is a competitive son of a gun. And I am thrilled that he's the head baseball coach at Nebraska. When Darren decided that he was going to step away, I remember immediately saying, that's got to be Will Bolt's job. I hope that they know they have to go hire Will Bolt. And smart people decided to make that hire. And the University of Nebraska is better for it. He's just a tremendous, tremendous human being. And I think he's going to do big things. All these changes in college athletics and all this expansion, I do think it's going to ultimately be a good thing for college baseball. How much does the NIL piece work its way into baseball? It has worked its way in. It's not going to have the same impact that it does in football or men's basketball or at a place like Nebraska right now. Volleyball certainly does a great job with their NIL. But I think the expanded scholarship opportunities is a great thing for sure. And I just think you have a conference now that has some institutions that really they care about baseball. USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington's been pretty committed to college baseball. So I think all of those schools really add. It's going to be a little bit easier, I think, from a scheduling standpoint now in terms of what you have to do. You still want to be aggressive in your non-con and pad that thing from a strength of schedule, I think, as much as you can. But it's not going to be maybe as bad as it was circa 2012, Greg, and you remember those days when there were some pretty tough RPI teams that you were playing in the Big Ten. I think it's ultimately going to be a better situation now moving forward for Nebraska and the other programs that really care about baseball in the Big Ten. So I'm excited to see where that goes. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I think Will's the right guy. And I think I'll say right now, I think Will's, he's got this program going in a direction where I think you're going to see them host regionals in the future. I really do.
Oh, would love that. Would love that. And speaking of love, this has just been so much fun to sit back and chat with you. And it was great to see you a couple of times here this fall. And what do you got? About 6 weeks before you head to Phoenix for spring training?
Yeah, our first game's the 22nd of February. So, I don't go too early before that because spring training is about 6 weeks on its own. And I've got 4 kids at home. So I try to sneak every last second I can with them before I go leave them for spring training. So I'll head down right around then, maybe a day or two before, and get ready for another season with the Brewers. But in the meantime, I'll be sitting around here working on little projects, maybe paint the bathroom.
There you go.
Read some articles on Major League Baseball, follow Husker football, recruiting and everything else that is always going on 365. So this was not even being on the air with you. This was just a normal phone call between the two of us, talking sports and enjoying ourselves. So you know what I think of you, my friend. You mean the world to me, and it has been just an absolute honor that I could be around the program and try to help you out this fall. It meant a lot to me to be able to do it, and meant a lot to me to be able to come on with you tonight. You are the best, and you have supported me so much over the course of my career. I came and saw you last Sunday. I came back with the Huskers after the Pinstripe Bowl, and I came back to see you in Lincoln, and you answered the door, and you had a Brewers pullover on.
Yep.
And I didn't even surprise me because throughout all these years that I've been gone, when you call me, you always come into my world. You would call me and say, hey, Brewers have won 3 in a row. You guys are playing well. Or, hey, you guys need a win. You dropped a couple. You always knew how my team was doing. You always knew what was going on in my world. And that might not seem like a lot, but it's always meant a lot to me. It's always told me a lot about our friendship and your support for me. So you mean the world to me, my man.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Lane. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your downtime.
You do the same. Thank you.
Lane Grindle joining us here on Sports Nightly. We've got more coming up next.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? You might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra, the perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
There's only one truck you should be looking at, the Ford F-150. The 2024 Ford F-150 is a Kelley Blue Book Best Buy. Has best-in-class towing and best-in-class payload. Available Pro Power on board lets you power the tools you need and get work done almost anywhere. With over-the-air updates, F-150 only gets better with time. F-150 is the only truck worth looking at.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Hello, Husker Nation. This is Lex Rodriguez, All-American Libero, serving you an ace on behalf of Noddle Companies based in Omaha, Nebraska. Noddle Companies is a full-service leader in commercial real estate, digging deep to create thriving communities like the Builders District, Exarban Village, and the contemporary row house townhomes. They bring world-class concepts in fashion, great eats, gorgeous homes, and green spaces, all professionally managed by Noddle Services. To dig up more information, find them on Facebook and Instagram. Noddle Companies, building a better Nebraska.
There's only one truck you should be looking at, the Ford F-150. The 2024 Ford F-150 is a Kelley Blue Book Best Buy. Has best-in-class towing and best-in-class payload. Available Pro Power on board lets you power the tools you need and get work done almost anywhere. With over-the-air updates, F-150 only gets better with time. F-150 is the only truck worth looking at.
I would have never had the chance to see my daughter become a doctor.
Because my mom wore her seatbelt that day, I get to hug her when I go home.
And then it clicked. Because I wore my seatbelt, I learned that one moment in time can change a person's life forever.
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
The day we were hit was the second to last day of our high school careers.
We were about to graduate as best friends together.
And then it clicked. Because we wore our seatbelt that day, we still get to experience life together.
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Sunday morning. You can smell it. Game day. And the brisket you've been smoking since last night. A day to be with family, aka fellow football fans. Traditions make Sundays easy to enjoy. Beers do too. Bud Light. Easy to Sunday, easy to enjoy. Bud Light is the official beer sponsor of the NFL. Enjoy responsibly. 21 plus. Copyright 2024 Anheuser-Busch Bud Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
From family road trips in a spacious SUV to heavy-duty hauling in a powerful truck, Woodhouse has the vehicle to fit your lifestyle. Purchasing a vehicle has never been easier thanks to our streamlined buying process. Browse a huge selection of new or pre-owned vehicles from top brands. View transparent pricing so you can find the vehicle that fits in your budget. And complete your purchase online. Shop when you want, where you want. It's the Woodhouse difference. Get started today at woodhouse.com.
Hey Huskers, it's a new day in Nebraska. Manzer Equipment, Mertz Farm Equipment, and West Point Implement of Columbus have teamed up as True Ag and Turf. Coach Rule is bringing innovation and high-performance standards to Husker football, and True Ag is doing the same to your farm with game-changing Fendt equipment. As Big Red establishes power on the field, True Ag and Turf does the same in the field by welcoming Fendt to Nebraska.
Chick-fil-A South Point Pavilions and Chick-fil-A 48-0 are proud to once again present Salute to Service at Nebraska basketball home games for this season. A recipient will be selected for each home game, get a couple of tickets, parking pass, VIP pregame meal, Chick-fil-A honor coin, and honored on the court during the game. Thank you for your assistance in honoring our veterans. Nominate a veteran at huskers.com/salute to service. I want to thank Lane Grindle again for coming on, just chatting, talking, former host of this show. Been a while now since he hosted his show, but just wanted to thank him for filling in for me for those last couple of games of the year. Went long. When we come back, we're going to get everybody's weekend winners. That's next.
What does it mean to be locally owned and operated?
For Cenex, it means everything. It means that we know if you take your coffee to go or if you like to stay a while. It means we've helped Little Leagues get jerseys and local festivals get funding. It means we know what our communities need. So you'll always leave Cenex with a full tank, full of snacks, or full of smiles. Or all of the above. And that means the world to us. Cenex, powered locally.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
If there's one thing Nebraska's known for, it's our beef. And Nebraska soybeans feed a lot of them, and even more pigs and chickens.
I'm Jason Pinky, a farmer near Craig, Nebraska. Soybeans are vital for feeding our livestock, and they're also a powerhouse protein source for people worldwide. Our world needs protein, and Nebraska soybeans are making a difference.
From tailgate grills to global plates, farmers deliver affordable, nutritious protein to build muscle and energy for everyone. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
There's something to be said for American-made, but at Monolith, we're helping create Nebraska-made. From here in Nebraska, we're producing low-emission carbon black for tires across North America. Soon we'll be providing farmers with locally made fertilizer to reduce our reliance on foreign imports. We're investing hundreds of millions in our multiple Nebraska facilities and employing Nebraskans in high-paying jobs that support families and communities. Monolith, Nebraska-made.
Our Huskers Radio Network Broadcast Center, sponsored by Akrs. They're the Midwest premier John Deere dealer, supplying the equipment and service to advance agriculture and much more. Akrs, solutions for every field. Well, this time of the show, we always hold off a few seconds to name everybody's weekend winner. David, I'm going to start with you first.
All right, so there's a bunch of awesome NFL games happening over this weekend, and the one that at least my roommates and I cannot stop talking about is the one between the Bears and the Packers, because of how they got all the way down the field. The Packers did, kicked that 55-yard field goal, and they thought the deal was sealed with 54 seconds, but then the Bears charged down and got the 51-yard field goal. So I have to go for the winner. I got to go with the Bears this weekend.
And it's been a rough year, so the Bears need to be called a winner in some shape or form. So that's cool. Henry, you got one for us?
I'm going to go with Lexi Rodriguez being named a finalist for that Honda Sport Award. She's just done so much for our program. So
pretty cool. She deserves any honor that comes her way. She has just been a fantastic college athlete, and I think that's probably somebody we will see on the Olympic team down the road. Lexi's just been fantastic. My weekend winner is I love golf. You all know I love golf. Hideki Matsuyama, 35 under par at the Century Tournament of Champions. That's a tournament out in Maui that they play every year to kind of start the year. You had to have won a tournament in the last 12 months to qualify to be at that one. And Hideki, he and Colin Morikawa had kind of a duel, but he ended up winning by 4 shots. Hideki Matsuyama, nice gentleman, has been a Masters winner in the past. He was phenomenal. Just played amazing golf. They chewed that course up because there wasn't a lot of wind, which is kind of unusual. Usually out in Maui, they get quite a bit of wind, but did not have wind, and they took advantage. 35 under par. All right, here's a rundown for the week. No show tomorrow. Husker basketball pregame at 6. Kent and Jake from Carver Hawkeye as the Huskers battle the Iowa Hawkeyes. Then on Wednesday night, Husker women's basketball at 7. We'll have a short show, about 30 minutes, as they take on nationally ranked Michigan State. We'll have a best of show on Thursday. We're going to have our Christmas party Thursday night, folks, so we're going to get out of here that night. So best of coming your way, and then we'll be back for a full show on Friday night. Thanks to David and to Henry and all of you. Have yourself a great night.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Preparation is the key to success on game day. And like your favorite Huskers on the field, you need to be ready right from the opening kickoff. Cenex has your pregame routine covered. We've got your salty snacks, your sweet treats, ice-cold beverages to wash them down, and fresh tanks of propane to fire up the grill. Fuel your fandom at your local Cenex station. Husker Pride, powered locally.
set, hike. When champions take the field, they come ready to play. TNL Irrigation understands the value of momentum. Like a Husker drive, there's no stopping. If you live for farming and football like we do, TNL Irrigation has you covered. Check your fields from the game with a remote system, or just enjoy the play knowing our systems are reliable as a sold-out Memorial Stadium. Touchdown! Nebraska born, Nebraska strong. Husker Nation and TNL Irrigation are like no other.
Husker fans, it's game day, and Pizza Hut's got your perfect play. Score the game day special for just $29.99. Get 2 medium 3-topping pizzas, 8 boneless wings, and 5 breadsticks. Enough to feed 800 fans. Pizza, wings, breadsticks, and more. It's the ultimate lineup to fuel your game day. Check out the full menu online at pizzahut.com or in store. Because remember, no one out-pizzas the Hut.
You expect your home to protect everything you love, but you don't expect the ways water is breaking down your basement and damaging your home. Mold, cracks, and of course visible water are just a few signs your basement is compromised. But there's one way to get answers to all your concerns. A free home inspection from Groundworks. We put water back in its place.